Hello everyone, my name is Sarah Nikinik, and I hope you're all doing well. Today I will be discussing a lesser-known work by Russian avant-garde artist Kazimir Malevich. My focus will be on his suprematist oil painting titled Black Cross from 1923. I will begin by exploring the artist's background, the work itself, and how this all correlates to the notions of suprematism. I will also be discussing the religious aspects of his artwork, as well as his use of the figure and Black Cross and how this compares to his beliefs of representing the non-objective and removing the figurative narrative in order to create a pure form of abstract art. We will begin by exploring the artist himself. He is the creator of the suprematist movement in both art and literature, and the self-proclaimed chairman of space. Kazimir Malevich was born in the Ukraine in 1979. In the early 20th century, within a 10-year span from 1903 to 1913, he began exploring many artistic styles. He began with Impressionism, then moved his way to Symbolism, as well as various forms of Russian Fauvism, such as Primitivism. And during the year of 1912, after a visit to Paris, he gained an interest in Cubism. Now, through all of the art forms, we can see the artist gradually transition into a more simplified style. He begins to display the notions of pure geometry through his use of simplified forms. He began to display the relationships each form had with one another, and his use of a minimal background helped to further emphasize these relationships by creating a new type of abstraction in art. Malevich states, quote, "We grow and our growth changes our point of view. Therefore, a return to the past is inconceivable. It appears that nature stays the same, that landscapes are the same as they were last year and 10 years ago. But if we observe more closely, we shall see that nature by no means remains the same. We see that villages have grown up among the fields, and towns have grown up amongst themselves. In the towns are places of worship, palaces, factories, and monuments. Railways have cut through the fields, locomotives rush through. With each day, nature emerges further and further from the old green world, the world of flesh and bone, and will approach the time when the green world will be as extinct as the primeval landscape." End quote. During the beginning of suprematism in the early 20th century, the world encountered the rapid advancements of technology at the time. Artists began to explore new ways of displaying the spiritual atmosphere of their vision within their artwork. This is due to the world's new fascination with photography. Artists wanted the world to be aware that their paintings and other artworks were made by hand by individuals who were each unique and different from one another. Malevich wrote, quote, "Art has once again met the figurative world of motors and machines, the world of technology, which it must destroy as it did the figurative world of academic arts. And only then will come the true form of the new world." End quote. Malevich developed this pure form of abstract art known as suprematism during the years of 1913. But it wasn't until 1915 that the first supremacist paintings were exhibited. He would go on to spend the next 15 years perfecting this aesthetic of abstraction. Suprematist art is characterized by a limited color palette and basic geometric shapes such as lines, squares, circles, and rectangles. Malevich sought to move far beyond the inner world of the artist and create a new form of art that was void of color and figures. He rejected reason and viewed the new abstract thinker as an individual who had broken away from the boundaries of conventional insight. He viewed art as a form of research, a way to explore the non-representational image that was free of any sign of tradition. Though his art showed no sign of representation or the conventional style of art, his thoughts and theories explored various forms of religion and spirituality. A quote from Malevich states, quote, "The artist can be a creator only when the forms of his picture have nothing in common with nature. Color and texture in painterly creativity are ends in themselves. This is the essence of painting. But this essence has always been destroyed by the subject." End quote. In Malevich's oil painting, Black Cross, we see the typical supremacist image. The image of an opaque black cross covering the entirety of the square canvas, with only 4 off-white squares on each corner, helping to further emphasize the shape. While there isn't much said of this artwork, Malevich wrote on his painting titled The Black Square, which was displayed alongside this work of art. He states, quote, "This is the form of a new living organism. It is not painting, it is something else. I had the idea that were humanity to draw an image of the divinity after its own image, perhaps the black square is the image of God, as the essence of his perfection on a path for today's fresh beginning." End quote. In the Black Cross, Malevich has displayed the image of God and his relationship to man. He creates an icon that is absent of the narrative that is present in religious works before it. By reducing this narrative to a pure geometric form, the artist is able to create a modern abstract image of the traditional religious symbols. If we take a look at the old traditions of religious and folk art in Russia, we are able to see the influence it may have had on Malevich's creative thought process. These works helped the Russian artist to move deeper into the non-objective territory of art. In old Russian art, the use of a white background symbolized purity, eternity, and sanctity, while black represented hell, darkness, and abyss. The artist's use of these colors showed the influence the traditional art had on him. According to Yevgenia Petrova, Malevich viewed himself as a messiah, called not only to save, but also to transform the world. And he regarded this theoretical writings as, quote-unquote, new gospels in art. Malevich wrote, quote, "God decided to build the world in order to free himself from it forever. In order to be free and to assume the entire nothing or eternal rest as a great thinking essence, for there was nothing else to think about. Everything was perfect. He wanted to give the same to man on earth. Man, however, was unable to endure the social system and transgressed it. Man left its captivity and the whole system collapsed, its weight falling on him. Feeling the weight inside him, God turned the system into dust. The weight became light. He unweighed it, placing man in an unknown system." End quote. This unknown system, which Malevich is discussing, is the world in which man lives. The weight is the color and form spread throughout the universe. Malevich uses suprematism as an artistic expression of man's existence in this universe. Malevich had intentions for the pictorial and philosophical suprematism to become a religion that would triumph all other religions, describing it as a, quote, "religion of the pure art," unquote. The artist writes in a letter to Gershenzon, where he states, quote, "I no longer consider suprematism like a painter or like a form that I took out from a dark skull. I stand before it like an outsider, contemplating a phenomenon. I have entered into the religious world. The time is coming for a change of religions. I have seen that just as painting has moved towards its pure form of the act, so too the world of religions is moving towards the religion of the pure act." End quote. He believed the audience could experience this new concept of God through his artwork. He created this new religion, which the Soviet regime did not believe fit their notions, which evidently led to his arrest and sentence of 6 months in jail in 1930. This, however, did not stop Malevich from spreading his views of suprematism as a new form of spirituality. He believed that with the international growth of the art movement, he would be able to create a new world and new nature. While the notions of suprematism were heavily influenced by the art movements that came before it, Malevich was also influenced by Old Russian and folk art, as we had seen prior. Black Cross can be seen as one of the portals, which he describes his artwork to be, for the audience to explore this new religion and spirituality, also allowing them to gain a better understanding of the universe in which man is in. During the time of his creation of Black Cross, Malevich created his signature painting, Black Square. He would go on to paint many more black squares throughout the year. Malevich was not trying to capture the spirit of the object in his painting as many other abstract artists tried to achieve. He had always referred to his paintings as non-objective as opposed to abstract. The American painter Donald Judd reviewed one of Malevich's exhibitions, calling his work the pioneer of the non-objective, stating, quote, "It's obvious now that forms and colors in paintings that Malevich began painting in 1915 are the first instances of form and color." End quote. Much like Black Square, in Black Cross, Malevich uses the same technique of creating a non-objective work that is composed of pure geometric form, with each carrying a deeper spiritual meaning within the composition. Malevich states, quote, "Destruction of the object in painting reveals the idea of pure creation, which is deeply embedded in art. Consequently, the painter turns to the pure art." End quote. The main difference between the two paintings is that in Black Cross, Malevich is making a clear reference to the religious symbol of the cross, which helps to further emphasize the spiritual context behind the work. As stated prior, the premise of suprematist art was formed around the notions of the non-objective/non-representational. Jean-Claude Marcade states, quote, "If there is nothing outside, then nothing is what is. It is this nothing that suprematism wants to release from the weight of the figurative." End quote. Malevich's goal was to remove all figurative narratives from his composition and replace them with their pure geometric form. But it can be argued that the figure is still very present in his works. This can be seen through his use of a neutral background and dark color of the geometric form. The white background can be seen as the space in which the dark form is floating. Branislav Jakovovic states in his article titled "Unframe Malevich" that the abolition of figuration in painting does not automatically annihilate the object. Though Malevich intended for the composition to consist of what seems to be 4 white squares and a black cross, he creates the figurative narrative of a religious icon, thus making the figure still relevant and present in the non-objective. In conclusion, Malevich's ultimate goal was to create a form of art that was absent of all elements and essence of worldly objects by using pure geometric form. While he was successful in creating this new spiritual form of abstraction and the non-objective, so to say, he could never truly be rid of the figure in art, creating works that represented a greater form of spirituality that only he was able to fully grasp. Black Cross is the perfect example of his struggle with removing the figure and object in his work. Now I will leave you all with a quote from the artist. Quote, "Our globe, the surface of the earth, is disorganized. There exists some nature, but I want to instead create suprematist nature. which will be built according to suprematist law." End quote. Thank you all, and I wish you nothing but luck on your finals.